I told you guys that the Guardians of the Galaxy game was gonna kick ass. Okay, that was not me. I was hacked.
This looks awful.
Deepfake? Defying many people's expectations comes Guardians of the Galaxy, released in October 26, 2021, and developed by Eidos Montreal and published by Square Enix. Now I know it's easy to quickly make comparisons between this game and their last comic book game affair, but let's judge Guardians of the Galaxy as its own thing, without feeling the need to give into the urge of pointing out just how—
Dude, this game is way better than Marvel's Avengers.
Okay, I'll be honest. My initial impression of Guardians of the Galaxy was filled with a lot of skepticism. It looked really bland, like the most video game to ever video game in the history of video games, with its basic looking third-person shooting combat that we've seen hundreds of times before, with nothing new or interesting to offer. And much like you-know-who, has a group of superheroes that look like a discount version of the much more beloved MCU counterparts. And I'm happy to say that none of those things I just said about this game are true. Not only does this version of the Guardians of the Galaxy have differences that sets them apart from their movie counterparts, but I might actually prefer some of the video game's characters over their MCU ones. Especially StarLord. It's no secret that James Gunn set the standard of what we come to expect from this character. Whether it be comics, video games, or an animated show, more than likely you're gonna get a StarLord with a red jacket and a Walkman and who is kind of a man-child. This game is very clearly doing that here as well, but it doesn't come off as a cheap imitation that makes me go, oh, but it's not Chris Pratt though. He's familiar, but they do some different things with his origins that, as someone who is not well versed in this character, it was cool seeing something fresh and that may or may not be more accurate to the comics. We get to spend more time with his mom, which is something we didn't get much of in the movie. And I find this version of Peter Quill to be more endearing. He does the whole goofball thing, but you also get these personal and emotional moments between him and his team members that aren't punctuated by a joke or quip, which is something surprising to say about a Guardians of the Galaxy game. It harkens to those tragic backstories of the characters, and it isn't afraid to get sappy. You know, I feel like there's a decent group pun there, had I set it up better. There's a surprising bit of roleplay I find myself doing while playing as StarLord, because this game is very much about establishing StarLord's role as a leader to the Guardians. Throughout your playthrough, you'll be presented with dialogue options, and it's up to you to decide which is the most appropriate response that'll keep the team motivated. Or maybe you don't want to choose the most appropriate response and instead make a dumb joke out of the situation. And both are valid in terms of Peter Quill's characterization. I often find myself picking the choice that would keep the team's head in the game because I wanted to see these guys thrive and work well together. This theme of becoming a leader is even present in the combat. One of the major things that stuck out to me as a weird choice was having this game be strictly single player. Not only that, but also that you can only play as StarLord. Usually when there's a game about an ensemble, I take it as a given that there will be some form of co-op play. Or at the very least that I will have the opportunity to play as other members of the team. I mean, how weird would it be to have a Fantastic Four game where you can only play as Mr. Fantastic? Or a Full House game where you can only play as Bob Saget? Guardians of the Galaxy takes that route, and I'm glad it did. It's a bold decision that ended up working out. I'm not going to take a jab at Marvel's Avengers this time around and say that Guardians benefits from having a single playable character instead of having to juggle 4 distinct combat styles, because I think Avengers does a fairly decent job at that. Peter Quill's combat mechanics are nowhere near being considered deep. They're actually very simple, but I think they thrive on that simplicity. You don't have to memorize combos or study a skill tree to see which build best suits your playstyle. It's a fun run and gun system that focuses on keeping the player moving and the action pumping. I was so glad to find little to no cover system antics. There are a few moments where you can take cover, but I didn't find them necessary. And that is very refreshing because that pop out of cover, shoot, wait for the enemy to take their turn shooting, then shoot them back, that combat loop can make a game get stale pretty quick. This is coming from someone who loves the Uncharted games. I hope more third-person shooters start pushing this style of combat more. One that focuses more on dashing around and overall having more kinetic action. I think it's more interesting and engaging. Like I said before, this game is about StarLord's journey in becoming a leader, and being able to command your team members when to use their special abilities in the middle of a big fight is the perfect way to translate that theme into combat. It's a simple system that has all your team members mapped to their own face button. When pressed, there'll be another window displaying their unique abilities also in the face buttons. It can seem a little clunky and like a lot to keep track of at first, but it quickly becomes muscle memory, and it starts to feel natural and intuitive. What really helps is the pace in which you unlock new abilities for the Guardians. They're spaced out far enough that you have plenty of time to get used to the ones you already have. And again, it's a simple system. We're not breaking any grounds here. But the way they handle team-up attacks here, it's so much more enjoyable than a game like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 or because you actually get to see what's happening. In those other games, everything is a fucking mess. There's explosions, metal flying everywhere, bright visual effects flashing on the screen. In Guardians, it's a very clear thing of Groot, snare those guys with your roots. Drax, run through them with your dash ability. And you get to see it and enjoy it, and seeing your enemies' health bars just absolutely melt feels rewarding when using these special abilities in the best possible combinations. A sort of ultimate kind of move is the huddle up mechanic. This can be triggered once you fill up a meter that increases as you kill bad guys. When you activate it, the game will switch to a first person perspective so you can face your team and you'll see these words floating behind them. The team will give you some dialogue reflecting how they're feeling about the battle at hand, and you're presented with 2 dialogue choices. The goal is to pick the best one that will pump up the team. This is achieved by simply picking the choice that has at least one of the words floating behind your team, or at least a synonym. Picking the right one will instantly heal everyone and refresh their special abilities. I like that the idea of being a leader and rallying up the team is also present here, but going through this dialogue minigame got kind of annoying after the 4th or 5th time because I don't see how anyone could fail these. I got through the whole campaign without failing a single one, so I got to a point where I wish the game would just give me the boost immediately, rather than having me sit through the dialogue and hamper the pace of combat. That, or instead of having it be either you fail it or you don't, how about giving me 3 dialogue options that each have their own benefit? Like one will instantly heal the team only, the other will only refresh their abilities, and the last one can give the team an overall damage boost. I think giving the player choices that leaves it up to them to figure out which is the one that will benefit the most depending on the circumstances is more interesting than having me play a minigame I'm guaranteed to win every time. But there's no denying that the best part of the huddle up mechanic is getting to jam out to 80's greatest hits as you blast away all kinds of aliens across the galaxy. I've seen a lot of people make comparisons between this game and the Mass Effect franchise, for obvious reasons. It's a sci-fi game where you have a ship and a crew, and you hop from planet to planet. But I think the Mass Effect games are on a larger scale. They're more open world and they have those deeper RPG systems, if you will. Guardians is more streamlined, closer to something like Uncharted with hints of Mass Effect. Regardless, I'm so happy to get a linear, narrative-focused game that doesn't feel the need to be this 50+ hour slog, or have gameplay loops that are meant to draw you back on a daily basis. So many games today want to be the next platform, with bits and pieces added on every month or so the game can stay relevant for the next 5 years. And not to say this about every service game, but there's something so disingenuous about those kinds of products, more focused on getting a couple of bucks out of you every now and then, instead of making a fun game. Guardians is complete, comprehensive. I rarely get the urge to replay games this fast, especially after going through one that's lengthy. This is roughly a 20-hour game and I didn't want it to end. I loved spending time with this cast of characters. There were times where I got excited, where I laughed, where I cried, If you told me a few months ago that the Guardians of the Galaxy game was gonna make me emotional, I would have laughed in your face.
That's a fake laugh.
It's real!
This is where those Mass Effect comparisons are most prominent for me, where you slow down between missions and take the time to hang out with your team in the Milano and ask them how they're feeling. They might be my favorite parts of this game. They remind me of walking around in the Sanctum Sanctorum in Marvel Ultimate Alliance and interacting with all those superheroes. But rather than sharing a fun fact about their comic book history, in Guardians of the Galaxy you get these heartfelt conversations that flesh out these characters more than I ever expected. Do yourself a favor and check out Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's show Square Enix that we want more of this kind of Marvel game and less of ha. Hey guys, thanks for watching my review of Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, a game that I'm more than happy to have been wrong about when I predicted that it was gonna not be worth anyone's time. This game is very much worth your time, especially if you're a comic book fan, an MCU fan. I think you're really gonna enjoy this game. I also want to give special thanks to Evan Falarka for providing me with a spare code of this game. Super awesome of you, dude. You can find the link to his channel down in the description. I recommend checking out his channel for full coverage on upcoming games like Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Marvel's Wolverine, and Marvel's Midnight Suns. He does a great job at that, and his own review of this game. At the time of this video's recording, there is a crazy sale going on where you can get the game for like 25 bucks on Amazon, on any platform, I believe. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign. Is this just a holiday sale, or did the game not sell well enough when it came out? So they're trying to really push this sale and get as many copies out there as they can. Support this game if you can. I really want the developers to know that this is the kind of comic book game that we want. Not just a service game that nickel and dime you for costumes. Which is something I didn't even touch on in this review, is all the crazy and cool suits that you can unlock for all the Guardians. They're all vastly different from one another and not just a simple retexture. Support this game if you can. I know I said that on the last video I said that Constantine was going to be my next video, but I was just feeling really passionate about Guardians and I wanted to get this review out while the game is still relevant and fresh in everyone's mind. So Constantine will be next, so make sure to subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when that goes up, and in the comments let me know what you thought of Guardians of the Galaxy, and if we do get a sequel, would you like it to have co-op, or would you rather it remain single player, or a separate co-op mode, separate from the main campaign? I think that's kind of an interesting question to talk about, especially when talking about ensemble games and stuff like that. Also, real quick, I don't really promote it much, but I do have a Discord. If you want to hang out and talk about this kind of stuff, I will leave a link to the Discord down in the description, so check that out if you're interested. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.